and welcome to Wine Club. This is the playlist where I drink good wine while I whine about bad books. Today I'm going to be talking about Murder at Mallowan Hall by Colleen Cambridge. So let's go ahead and look at the back cover copy. So in this delightful new historical mystery series, Phillida Bright, housekeeper and amateur sleuth, discovers a body in the library, and a mystery to baffle even her famous employer. Tucked away among Devon's rolling green hills, Mallowan Hall combines the best of English tradition with the modern conveniences of 1930. Housekeeper Phillida Bright manages the large household with an iron fist in her very elegant glove. In one respect, however, Mallowan Hall stands far apart from other picturesque country houses, for the manor is home to archaeologist Max Mallowan and his famous wife, Agatha Christie. Phillida is both loyal to and protective of the crime writer, who is as much a friend as employer. An aficionado of detective fiction, Phillida has yet to find a gentleman in real life as fascinating as Mrs. Agatha's Belgian hero, Hercule Poirot. But though accustomed to murder and its methods as frequent topics of conversation, Phillida is unprepared for the sight of a very real, very dead body on the library floor. It soon becomes clear that the victim arrived at Mallowan Hall under false pretenses during a weekend party. And when another dead body is discovered, this time one of her housemaids, Phillida decides to follow in M. Poirot's footsteps and determine which of the Mallowan's guests is the killer. Now only Phillida's wits will prevent her own story from coming to an abrupt end. Now, first, I do want to preface this review by saying that there are going to be spoilers, and second, this review is solely about the book, not about Cambridge as a person. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first, we're going to start off with what was good about the book. So one thing I really liked is I really liked the setup, and it's a unique twist to involve Agatha Christie and her husband Max. And I do think that the series has really great potential with the setup, and it's a pretty fun spin to the classic cozy upstairs-downstairs mystery setup. The setting and time period also drew me in. I understood the kind of home the Mallowans kept, as well as their company. And then plus the other characters and household staff were interesting, and I'd be curious about what happens to them. I also really did like the mystery part, and I really wanted to solve the murder and find out who's behind the killings and why. There's a big cast of characters, and there's a lot of reasons for them all to be guilty, so it really does keep you engaged as you go through this whodunit. Though I do have to mention a bad, because the reveal spans like 15 pages, and most of it is just Phillida monologuing. That really could have been trimmed down. I also think the pacing was well done, and the reveal of the clues and the second murder was placed really well in the story to keep you interested. And the book is overall pretty easy to read. I also really like the character of Bradford and his ability to needle Phillida. I think they could have a very cute romance, kind of that grumpy sunshine, but also grumpy meets grumpy. Especially, his attitude towards things meets hers, and I think he can kind of help her unclench a bit because, yikes, Phillida needs some help. I also liked her relationship with Mr. Dobble, the butler. I imagine that will end up being a lot more friendly as it goes on. I imagine that their relationship is going to change, be a little bit more warm. They're going to come to trust each other and like each other. I don't foresee any romance there, but it would be interesting to see their platonic relationship grow. I also really liked her relationship with Agatha as well. Granted, there were some things that didn't quite make sense about it, but I think those will be revealed in later books. That said, there were a lot of cryptic hints about their shared past that kind of drove me nuts after a while, because it's either, okay, give us something, and I understand that it's setting up a new series, but it's also really frustrating to just constantly be like, oh, we were friends, and oh, we helped each other, and oh, we did this, but I'm not going to tell you what else. Can I at least get something, besides knowing that you two worked together during the war? Alright, so let's move on to the bad. So first up, we have the descriptions. Apparently too much description is just a big turnoff for me, as it really jumped out of this book. So I did tab a few areas that I think this was especially egregious in. So, page 77. When Phillida pushed through the door covered in green baize and mounted into place with round brass tacks around the edges, This door on the ground floor being the literal divider between the world of servant and the master, the upstairs and the downstairs. She was startled to find the butler actually waiting for her. Dreaded fool was hovering so close. If she hadn't been paying attention, he might have been skewered by her bill spindle. I don't need all this description about a door. Like, I liked the part about it, separating the upstairs and downstairs world. I don't need to know that they're brass knobs. I know what a door looks like. Another example on page 146. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay. I simply don't understand why we must remain here, said Mrs. Budgley Rhodes, as she dumped 4 lumps of sugar into her tea. She stirred violently, her spoon clinking, cup vibrating, tea sloshing onto the saucer and table. It would leave watermarks for certain. Can you pick one? I don't need to know that she's doing it violently. Her cup is clinking, her cup is vibrating. Just pick either her tea is sloshing. I get it. I don't know. It just, if there's too much description, it really bugs me. And then there's one other instance that I marked. So page 155, and Phillida's going into town. So the first time she'd seen Lyssa, which was when she was alighted from the train to take the position at Mallowan Hall, Phillida had immediately felt at home. A stereotypical English village of the sort mentioned in Historic Travel Inns of England, Lyssa sported winding cobblestone streets with many of the storefronts and other establishments built right up to the edge of the road. There were ivy-colored brick buildings with splashes of color from flower pots and from small gardens, spilling with blooms contained only by spiked wrought iron fences. Bicycle riders, horse-drawn wagons, pedestrians, delivery lorries, and motor cars shared the narrow streets, for there were few walkways. A tiny train station sat outside the little town, a half-mile to the west. The Screaming Magpie was near the center of a village that barely stretched a square mile. There was an empty rectangular patch of lawn across from the public house, where the annual Beetroot and Chickenfoot Festival happened, and the bell tower of St. Wendreda's Church cast a long shadow over the green. Its red brick rectory squatted behind it in the shade of elms and maples. To the north were such establishments as the baker, a tea shop, and the chemist, and to the south was a haberdasher and a small general store, whose proprietor, Winnie Pankhurst, was in constant battle with the chemist, Bartholomew Sprite, because he often carried items Miss Pankhurst claimed weren't pharmaceutical in nature and were encroaching on her general store business. Phillida was always careful to purchase only medications and health and beauty aids from Mr. Sprite and other items from the general store. Word traveled quickly and thoroughly in small villages. Again, I think there is a point between giving too much detail and letting the reader kind of fill in the gaps myself. To me, again, this is just a personal niggle. I don't need all of this detail. We can move this along a little bit faster. Like I said earlier, under bad, the big reveal took way too long, and we're following Phillida. Now, it's not first person, but we are following her very closely. And then at the end, she kind of hides the final clues and understandings from us, so we can't figure it out on our own. Every other clue has been shared readily with us, her musings on it. That last clue is just, aha, I got it, and then we're not going to find out until we sit down with all the other characters and get the big reveal. To me, that's not as fun. It kind of feels like a cheat. I would like to also understand it, and then she explains the why done it instead of the who done it at that point. It also felt like some of the characters' actions felt off and very evident that they were being used as red herrings. There was a scene with the doctor where he makes kind of creepy, cryptic comments that end up meaning nothing. I get drawing attention away from the real killer, but it also felt forced or unrealistic when the reveal came, because then is it just the doctor's just a weirdo? Or, is he up to something too and just was being weird in that moment? Who knows? Alright, finally the ugly. And I am sorry, but I really, really hated the main character. And she seems to be one of those characters that you either like or you hate based on other Goodreads reviews. Some people love her, but I was hoping the killer would have taken her out. She kind of seems like a polarizing character. To me, she was just really hard to like, which honestly sucks, as I have a really good friend with the same name, who I absolutely love. I had to remind myself that this wasn't my Phillida. On page 3, it says, Phillida, for all her exacting standards and regimental mind, was possessed of an optimistic, pragmatic, and sunny personality. Excuse me? You can't just tell me that she has a sunny personality when it's page after page after page of her judging people, being visibly annoyed with people or situations, or being pointed with people. Like, I'm not gonna buy it. You can't tell me one thing and then show me everything else that goes in contradiction with it. Don't tell me Phillida has a good personality when she shows the opposite. And then, why wasn't she arrested for obstructing justice? She ruins crime scenes, she takes evidence, and then she holds it hostage to get access to other evidence. Like, why didn't Inspector Cork lock her up for botching the investigation? Besides, she's constantly saying how he's bungling the investigation. Maybe because you keep stealing things or hiding things or forcing yourself into the situation, Phillida. Maybe if you let the man do his job, he'd be able to do it. Like, I love a girl boss as much as the next woman, but she's not a girl boss by constantly saying that men can't do anything right. Maybe he could if you would stop meddling and stealing clues. I also have to note, tabbed a piece on page 251 where, like, the killer is finally revealed, and, like, yeah, Phillida has given her big, long speech and, like, explaining everything. And, okay, even the killer has to sing Phillida's praises about how much smarter than the inspector she is. So, Mr. Hartford had gone very pale, and there was a faint greenish cast under his skin. Phillida thought she understood why, and it wasn't because of his wife's actions, but she decided to keep that bit of information to herself. There's really no reason to destroy the life of another person here today. Now, Mrs. Devine, let's not make another, hush up there, Inspector. I've got the floor now, and I must say, I wasn't worried at all when I saw you and the constable here bumbling around, trying to determine what happened. It wasn't until she began to get involved that I became a bit nervous. Still, I didn't expect you to put it all together, Mrs. Bright. I thought I had covered my tracks very well. Whoa, who talks like that? And, yeah, why is this killer singing Phillida's praises when she's the one who caught her? Like, I don't know, it really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, there's a way to do women empowerment without putting down men, and it didn't seem like the right way to raise Phillida up. Like, it honestly would have been better had she been working in tandem with Cork, and, like, if they had a good relationship, and then he was saying, like, oh, yeah, you know, you're really good at this, or, like, hey, I thought I could use your set of eyes looking at this evidence, something like that. I probably would be interested in keeping up with the series. I cannot stand Phillida. Again, setup is great, and it's a fun spin on cozy mysteries, but I have absolutely no intention of cozying up with another book that features this as the main character. If you love Agatha Christie-esque cozy mysteries set in a small British village, you might really love this. But as it stands, it's just not for me. So, did you read Murder at Mallowan Hall? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time on Wine Club.